Still to come ahead in tonight's news, Japan and North Korea try to establish diplomatic ties in talks held in Tokyo. And British troops restore calm in Northern Ireland after a night of clashes in Belfast.
Japanese and North Korean negotiators vowed today to try to establish diplomatic ties, but hopes for a breakthrough looked dim as the longtime foes stuck to entrenched positions on key issues. On the first of 2 days of talks in Tokyo, North Korea repeated its call for Japan to apologize and pay reparations for its harsh 1910 to 1945 rule of the Korean Peninsula. Japan returned by raising the sensitive issue of 10 Japanese citizens Tokyo believes were kidnapped by North Korean agents in the past. Demands mean the second round of normalization talks look difficult. Previous talks have founded on both issues raised today, and some observers say only top leaders could make the key decisions needed to break the bilateral stalemate.
In another major topic, British troops restored an uneasy calm to Northern Ireland's capital today after sporadic overnight violence between protesting guerrilla groups followed a day of bloodshed and arson. Troops set up checkpoints and patrolled parts of the capital as a violent feud between protesting guerrillas threatened to spiral out of control and damage Northern Ireland's peace process after two men who had links to the Loyalist Ulster Defence Association, UDA, were shot dead yesterday. They were shot by a lone gunman as they walked to their car outside a pitting shop. In a separate incident, shots were fired at several homes of members of the Progressive Unionist Party, PUP, which has close links to Ulster Volunteer Force, UVF guerrillas. And in the same area of Belfast yesterday, shots were fired at the offices of the Ulster Democratic Party and the offices of the Progressive Unionist Party, both Protestant pro-British Loyalist groups. The PUP offices were also set on fire. Britain said it would act firmly to stamp out the violence in the province, where politicians from the Protestant majority and Roman Catholic minority are trying to seal a lasting peace.
Opposition leader and Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi urged the world's students to put pressure on their governments to push for democracy in Myanmar. In a rare videotaped interview released today, Suu Kyi said during a forum on education in Myanmar's capital Yangon on Monday that the recent reopening of universities in Myanmar did not represent progress. She said there had been complaints that curricula had been changed and there was uncertainty about the length of university terms and when exams would take place. Suu Kyi said education in Myanmar would not improve until the country adopted democracy. Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy won elections in May 1990 by a landslide, but has never been allowed to govern.
So there are more questions than answers about the reopening of the universities.
Peru's President Alberto Fujimori said last night Peruvian authorities had busted a major international arms smuggling ring that parachuted thousands of weapons into neighboring war-torn Colombia to supply leftist rebels. Fujimori said the operation highlighted growing concerns that the conflict could intensify and spill into Peru, just as Washington prepares to give $1.3 billion in aid to Colombia to support its war on drugs. Authorities arrested 6 people, including 3 former Peruvian military officials and a Russian who had smuggled some 10,000 Kalashnikov automatic rifles over the last year from Jordan to Colombia, with a stop in Peru's Amazon in one of the biggest armed busts in Peru. Colombia has been ravaged by 3 decades of fighting between Marxist rebels, outlawed ultra-right paramilitary gangs, and state security forces that has killed more than 35,000 people, mostly civilians, in the last 10 years.
The first Colombian drug kingpin to be extradited to the United States in a decade appeared in Manhattan federal court yesterday to face conspiracy, cocaine and money laundering charges that could put him in jail for life. 44-year-old Albert Orlando's Gamboa, the alleged leader of one of Colombia's most powerful drug cartels, arrived in New York late Friday night after being extradited from Bogota. He had been held in a Colombian prison since June 1998, awaiting trial on murder and kidnapping charges. Orlando's, nicknamed the Snail, was charged in a 3-count indictment last year for allegedly running the Caracol organization based in Barranquilla on Colombia's Caribbean coast. The charges filed in Manhattan federal court alleged he directed shipments of thousands of kilograms of cocaine to Miami, Philadelphia, New York City, and other U.S. and European cities between 1996 and 1999. If convicted, Orlando's could face a maximum sentence of life imprisonment.
Distribution of hundreds of thousands of kilos of cocaine.
Elsewhere, wildfires have continued to devastate the western United States, with the most intense fire devouring over 17,000 acres of Palomas National Park in Northern California. Firefighters across the western United States took advantage of calmer winds today in their battle against blazes that have showed little mercy in the worst fire season in nearly 50 years. Fire officials said there were 89 large fires burning nearly 784,000 hectares in 8 western states, Texas and Florida. The hardest hit states remained Montana and Idaho, where a combined 486,000 hectares are on fire. Firefighters from Canada, Mexico and as far away as Australia and New Zealand are also working to help contain fires expected to burn for months.